Hello and welcome to, of course, another movie review on the channel, and this one, at least at the time of releasing this review, is available on Netflix, and that is where I watched this film. I'd heard really good things about it from a number of reviewers and movie personalities who I'm a fan of, the Schmoes, Mark Riley, a number of others too, and I like this film. So, spoiler alert, I did enjoy this movie. Now, I will say, I would not classify this, at the moment at least, as like a favourite movie of mine, but I will say I loved a lot of the ideas in the film, a lot of the storytelling style in the film, the visuals, certainly the casting, definitely the performances, and also I loved the simplicity of the concept. Now, I'm going to get into some spoiler talk, of course, later on. You can see that over here, and the spoiler that I want to get into the most is actually about the ending, which I think is probably what the majority of people are going to talk about when it comes to spoilers. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the film, here's what you need to know. It's based in a prison. It's not an English movie, but the one I watched it was dubbed. I don't know if it's dubbed for everyone on Netflix, but it was for me, and I'm not sure if you could turn that off. I kind of wish it wasn't dubbed, to be honest. I prefer to read subtitles because I still had the subtitles turned on anyway, but, each to their own. So, it opens in a prison. You've got two guys in a cell, and the centre of the cell is completely open. Multiple layers of a cell, kind of like The Raid or Dread, where it's like this big apartment block, except instead of an apartment, it's just cell above cell above cell, like a rabbit hutch. Bare bones concrete everywhere. This big rectangular hole in the centre of the room with a platform that comes down each room, seemingly attached to nothing, almost like a maglev system, and covered in a banquet of food. That is what the prisoners get to eat, and that is the entire concept which drives the film. This platform, hence the name. What will people do in order to get better food? What will people do in order to help other people get better food? Why should they even care about other people getting better food? And also, why are different people on different levels of this place? How deep or how high does it go? And how can you actually try to maybe make the system better or worse, either for your own good or for the good of other people? That is essentially the concept behind the platform. As far as stuff which I loved, I already touched on some of that. The casting was fantastic, the performances are incredible, the visuals are great. It would be very easy to film a movie with, prisoners in a concrete room and look absolutely boring, but it doesn't. The shots are placed all over the room, corners, wide open shots, close-ups, face, all this kind of stuff, various tinted lights under different occasions, and even the platform itself, the visuals with, as I mentioned, this maglev kind of system, which is never actually explained, but kind of implied. It just has this very interesting juxtaposition where the room looks realistic, but then the platform, even as a concept, is mind-bending because it's not attached to anything, and it's such an alien-looking system, which is unlike anything you typically see. I love that juxtaposition. It really works in the film. Now, to get more into spoiler talk, because this review I don't think necessarily needs to be overly long, I've already told you what it's about. That's pretty much all you need to know. So, for spoiler talk, as I said, I wanted to go primarily straight to the ending of the movie, because of course, as they walk through the film, he begins to go down the levels and find out that this place is actually a lot deeper than anyone had ever thought. I mean, the first guy who he's in the room with said, I believe that he thought there was like 132 rooms, I think, something like that. That's not even close, of course. It's, if I recall, something more like 350, maybe even more than that. So he goes all the way to the bottom with a little girl. Of course, they decide that instead of the food being the message, they decide that the girl is the message. Sure, I found that to be an interesting choice. Now, this is not one of those movies where the ending kind of throws me off or ruins it for me by any stretch. I will say, though, that I kind of wanted more from the ending. I would have almost liked to have seen the outcome, maybe, or at least a hint of the outcome. Not for him in that lower level, because I feel like there was something poetically appropriate about him just walking into the darkness, but I would have liked to have seen the girl actually, you know, get to the top. Because after all of that investment that you've had in the movie, you kind of want to feel like something's been accomplished. But it's left so ambiguous, and there's nothing wrong with being ambiguous. I love that in stories and movies. But there's a difference between being ambiguous and kind of leaving you feeling a little bit unfulfilled. And to me, this was kind of borderline. Imagine this, for example. The ending shot of the film, I don't recall what it was, I believe it was him walking into the darkness or something like that, but imagine if instead of that, the ending shot of the movie was to mirror the beginning of the film in the kitchen at the top, where all those chefs are making the gorgeous food and there's that guy walking around making sure it all looks good. Ending shot, the chefs down either side of the room, slaving away over whatever they're doing, all facing away from the camera, you know, out to the left and out to the right. And maybe the older guy who tests the food is walking towards the camera. Then you hear some kind of mechanical sound or an indication that the platform is coming back up. And then in the center of the room, there's like a big dumbwaiter, in effect, you know, where they load all the food on in the first place. The older guy turns around to look at it, and as the camera starts to pan across the room, there up comes the platform with the girl sitting in the center of it. Then everyone in the room kind of notices the silence, turns to look, and then black. That's how I would have ended the film. Now, I'm not saying that's better, that's just how I would have done it. And to me, that would have been more fulfilling, because to me, placing an ambiguous ending in the movie is very important, because you can do it really well, or you can be, as I said, unfulfilling. To me, showing that she got to the top doesn't ruin anything, because there's still the open-ended question that what good will that do? To me, that is the ambiguous question that matters. I don't want to be wondering, oh, did she even make it back up? Because that's just not as interesting of a question. Whereas that is where the movie ends, and that is the question that it leaves you with. Or at least it did to me. So that's my thoughts on the ending. I guess that's all I really want to get into spoiler-wise. But as far as all the rest, I really liked it. And as I said, the ending that we did have certainly didn't ruin it for me. It's just maybe a little bit unfulfilling compared to what I wanted from the movie. But of course, that's not necessarily the movie's fault. Your own expectations and desires are yours. So of course, we all want different things from the films that we see. So overall, of course, I would love to hear your thoughts down below. Did you enjoy the movie? I know a lot of people do. It's certainly a great film to be available on Netflix. I do think so. And to some degree, my final point will actually be kind of a self-plug, as I've sometimes done on the channel. I did a self-plug in one of my other reviews. Depending on when I release it, I may have not released that one yet. But this movie, I believe, kind of subconsciously inspired my recent free book, which I released on YouTube. It's actually here on the channel. It's called A Room Called Sin. And it's a 15-minute audiobook, and I believe it was kind of inspired by this, maybe a little bit. The story itself, if you listen to that video, isn't really like this, and I'll probably put a link in the description below. But yeah, I think it might have been inspired by it, maybe subconsciously. But of course, that's it for this vid. Stick around on the channel for more car reviews. Be sure to hit the notification bell if you want to see my latest vids. And until next time, I'll see you then. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.